The year is 1906. The place is New York City. The scene is the Bronx Zoo, one of the largest and most popular zoos in the world. Thousands of visitors flock to see the exotic animals from all over the globe, marveling at their beauty and diversity. But among the lions, tigers, bears, and monkeys, there is one exhibit that stands out from the rest. It is not an animal, but a human being. A young man, barely 5 feet tall, with dark skin and curly hair. His name is Ota Benga, and he is a pygmy from the Congo. Ota Benga is not a volunteer nor a paid performer. He is a prisoner, a victim of colonial exploitation and scientific racism. He was kidnapped from his homeland, sold into slavery, and brought to America by a white explorer who wanted to display him as a specimen of a primitive race. He was first exhibited at the St. Louis World's Fair in 1904, along with 8 other pygmies, as part of the anthropology exhibit. There, he was forced to live in a replica of his village, surrounded by fake palm trees and grass huts. He was measured, weighed, and photographed by curious spectators, who treated him like an animal or a curiosity. After the fair, Ota Benga returned to Africa with his captor, hoping to find his family and friends. But he soon discovered that his village had been destroyed and his people massacred by the brutal regime of King Leopold II of Belgium, who ruled the Congo as his personal property. Ota Benga lost his wife, his children, and his freedom. He had nowhere to go and no one to turn to. He decided to follow his captor back to America, hoping for a better life. But his hopes were soon dashed. His captor, who was in financial trouble, arranged for Ota Benga to live at the American Museum of Natural History in New York City, where he was housed with the stuffed animals and skeletons. He was unhappy and restless, and often rebelled against his confinement. He once threw a chair at a wealthy donor who had insulted him. He also befriended some of the museum staff, who taught him some English and gave him books and music. But the museum was not his final destination. The director of the Bronx Zoo, William Hornaday, had a different plan for Ota Benga. He wanted to use him as a living proof of the theory of evolution, which was still controversial at the time. He believed that Ota Benga was a missing link between apes and humans, and that by exhibiting him with the monkeys, he could demonstrate the inferiority of the black race. He convinced Ota Benga's captor to lend him to the zoo and prepared a cage for him in the monkey house. On September 8, 1906, Ota Benga was put on display for the first time. He was given a hammock, a bow and arrow, and some oranges to share with the chimpanzees. He was also given a sign that read, "The African Pygmy Ota Benga, age 23 years, height 4 feet 11 inches, weight 103 pounds, brought from the Kasai River, Congo Free State, South Central Africa, by Dr. Samuel P. Verner," exhibited each afternoon during September. The zoo visitors were amazed and amused by the sight of a human in a cage. They laughed, pointed, and threw peanuts at him. They mocked his appearance, his language, and his behavior. They asked him questions and made fun of his answers. They tried to touch him and sometimes succeeded. Some even tried to poke him with sticks or pull his hair. Ota Benga was humiliated, angry, and scared. He felt like a hunted animal, trapped and tormented. He tried to fight back, but he was powerless. He tried to escape, but he was locked up. He tried to hide, but he was always exposed. The zoo officials were pleased with the success of their exhibit. They claimed that they were educating the public about the diversity of human races and that Ota Benga was happy and comfortable in his new home. They ignored the protests of some Christian ministers who denounced the exhibit as immoral and degrading. They also ignored the pleas of some African American leaders who demanded the release of Ota Benga and his recognition as a human being. They argued that Ota Benga was not a specimen, but a person with a history, a culture, and a dignity. The controversy grew and the pressure mounted. The zoo finally agreed to end the exhibit and to transfer Ota Benga to a more suitable place. He was moved to the Howard Colored Orphan Asylum, run by an African American Reverend, James H. Gordon. There he was given clothes, education, and companionship. He made friends with some of the orphans and learned to play baseball and ride a bike. He also learned more about his own history and the plight of his people in the Congo. He began to dream of returning to his homeland and finding a new life. But his dreams were never realized. Ota Benga was unable to go back to Africa due to the political turmoil and the outbreak of World War I. He was also unable to find a place in America due to the racism and discrimination he faced. He felt lonely, alienated, and hopeless. He longed for his freedom, his family, and his forest. He lost his faith, his joy, and his purpose. On March 20th, 1916, Ota Benga took his own life. He shot himself in the heart with a pistol in a secluded place in Virginia where he had been living with a black family. He left behind a note written in his native language that said, "I have no home." Ota Benga's story is a tragic but fascinating one. It is a story of colonialism, racism, and science gone wrong. It is a story of human cruelty and human dignity. It is a story of a man who was treated like an animal but who never lost his humanity.